Hey guys, this is Echo Soundworks with another tutorial for ADSR and MassiveSynth.com. So it was a little demo of the sound we'll be making today in Massive, and you absolutely did hear a piano in it, but we're obviously not making a piano in Massive. I wanted to show you how to make kind of this, I guess it's like just an airy pad that can fill out ambient genres, chill step, dubstep, even if you're just doing like ambient pop stuff. So if I just solo the really simple bass, just like a sine square wave thing going on. I'll show you what it looks like real quick. So it's just a sine square wave and that's it. Push down to sine. So that's just playing the root note, and then I have this piano with it. So right now it's it's not a very dense sound. This air pad is a really cool way. A lot of producers will use it to fill out their tracks in certain genres. It kind of needs some EQ, and so I'll do that. I wanted to show you that real quick. So I do have some outside reverb thrown on it, but I did want to show you this EQ. So if I solo the pad, there's a lot going on in the low mids. Don't really need that, especially with this bass. I'm just gonna be taking the sub frequencies. And you're gonna maybe want to boost the high end just a little, just to give it more air. Alright, so that's kind of what you'd ultimately want to do with any type of really airy pad that you're going to be using, if you're going to use one to kind of fill out a mix. So I'm going to make a new instance of Massive and copy and paste this down. And for when I'm actually remaking it, I will have the other tracks muted. File, new sound. Okay, so that's what we're starting with. So the first thing I'm going to do is in Oscillator 1, I'm going to change the wavetable to the pulsal, the virtual analog pulse width modulation. And I'm going to drag the wavetable position down just above halfway. I'm going to drag this pulse width down a little and the amp down as well. And then I'm going to push this up to filter 1. We are going to be using both of the filters for this sound, so make sure you don't forget these steps with the filter sliders, otherwise your sound will be very different. So there's what we have so far. So now I'm going to activate Oscillator 2, and I'm going to take the classic wave. It's one of my favorite wavetables in Massive. And I'm going to keep this on spectrum, but I'm going to drag the wavetable position down all the way. Turn the intensity down just a little bit as well, and keep the amp all the way up. I'm going to pitch this down to -12 to give it that room and that kind of stereo spread with the frequencies. Okay, so we're just going to be using 2 oscillators for this pad. Now, I'm going to be modulating a little bit with some LFOs and envelopes for these first 2 oscillators. So the sound will change when we hit that step. But I do want to create a macro right now. I'm going to clear out this macro 1, which is vibrato by default. I'm going to drag it into both of my oscillators that are active for the sound. And I'm going to label this detune. All right, and for oscillator 1, I'm going to give it just positive 0.16, and oscillator 2, I'm going to drag it down to 0.19, and those are just arbitrary numbers that sounded good to my ear. There's no rhyme or reason. You could go a little less, a little more. All right, so now I'm going to go down to the noise oscillator, which is important for the sound. I'm going to keep it on white and boost that to about halfway. Or it's a little under halfway. If I take off the reverb I have on it right now, that is the sound. So it's pretty ugly. The reverb has definitely helped softening things up, and you can throw on any reverb plug that you like using. So now let's head over to this filter section. And in the filter section, I need to change this from serial to parallel because I'm going to be using both of the filters. And in filter 1, I'm going to select the Daft filter. And in filter 2, I'm going to select Bandpass. All right, so in filter 1, I'm going to turn the cutoff down a little bit more than where it is by default, maybe like 15–20%. I'm going to turn the resonance down a little as well. And now I'm going to turn up the slider for my filter 2 bandpass, and then turn the mix to almost leaning heavily towards filter 2. But we're doing that because we set it to serial, so we can blend the mix and it still hits filter 1. And the filter 1 reacts to the cutoff better than for our oscillator one, which is why we sent the amp all the way to filter 1. So we're going to modulate some of these parameters in a little bit with some envelopes, and actually we're going to make a second macro right now. I'm going to drag in my number 2 macro crosshair, and I'm going to drag this up and out, and I'm going to call this cutoff. All right, and you can drag that up to taste. It's really fun to do with these type of sounds, is to automate that. You can do that with your automation tools in your DAW. So let's head on down to the oscillator tab really quick. And in the oscillator tab, I'm going to restart via gate, which is weird for a pad sound, but I like how it turned out. Gives it a little bit of a brighter feel, which I liked. And now let's go to our voicing tab, which is going to be important for the sound. And make sure that you have the unison on 2. And then check this pan position knob and slide it towards mono, but not all the way there. So we're just spreading it out a little. Now click on your envelope 1 tab. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to turn the attack down all the way and the decay up a little more, and turn the level almost all the way down, but not all the way down. So there's just a little bit of a bump, maybe just a few of those crosshairs. And then I'm going to turn this release up just a smidge. So then we're going to take that and modulate into our filter 1 cutoff, and I'm going to modulate down with that until you see that little notch right there. So that's just helping tame some of the frequencies from our filter. And now I'm going to drag that same crosshair into my wavetable position of my second oscillator, and I'm going to drag up just a little on that. Okay, so now let's go to envelope 4. And I'm jumping to that one because it's tied to our amp mod by default and massive. So I'm going to bump the attack a little because this is a pad sound. I'm going to keep the decay where it is, keep the level where it is, and I'm just going to crank up this release. So that line starting at the release point should be near linear. All right, and now once we have, now that we have the filters kind of set up, I can bring in a little bit more noise. Okay, so let's go to our effects section. And what we're going to do with the first effect is I'm going to select the dimension expander. And for the dry wet and the size, I'm just turn the dry wet down a little, keep the size where it is pretty much. All right, and now I'm going to select the chorus for the chorus ensemble for our second effect slot. And the dry wet, have that down a little bit past halfway. The rate, have it pretty slow, so it's more of an evolving type effect. And the offset up all the way, and the depth down so you don't get any kind of tremolo or wobbling type sounds. All right, so now I'm going to turn on the EQ, and I'm going to boost the lows just a hair. I'm going to turn the boost down and the frequency down a lot, and then boost the highs a little. Alright, so now I'm going to turn the cutoff of our bandpass up a little. You can hear that's going to let through a lot of that white noise. Alright, so the final thing I'm going to do is to add some kind of a evolving feel to the sound is I'm going to activate an LFO, and you can really do it with any LFO. Doesn't really matter which one. I'm going to sync. I'm going to make sure I don't have the rate synced. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one of the weirder kind of shapes here. I'm going to select this sinus uni. And then for the bottom one, I'm going to select this vibrato wave 1. So it's kind of like a weird looking sine wave. And then keep the X fade curve in the middle so that it's active. So both of those are active. Turn your amp down a hair, and now I'm going to modulate the pulse width of my first oscillator, and I'm going to modulate the wavetable position of my second oscillator just a little, and I'm also going to modulate the intensity. So I just took off the EQ that I had on it. You can see that really cleans up the sound. And it will allow you to use this type of sound with some bass. So now if I bring in some of the other 2 tracks I had in the demo. You are left with that airy pad that will really fill out a ambient style mix. So if you guys have any questions or comments, let me know below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I hope you found some of these tips and tricks useful, or hopefully even you like the sound. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.